Okay, hi there. I'm Mindy Becker, and I'm here with my very first video testimonial with my friend Edith. And I'm so excited that she was willing to do this with me and share a little bit about her experience with me and conscious discipline. And I'm excited for you to meet her and for us to hear what she has to say about really the first time. If you share a little bit, Edith, about the first time you came to one of my classes or met me, how that all kind of happened for you.
Well, I had a friend who had two school-age daughters, and I was really impressed with the way that they were treated my kids, and they were really kind, caring, loving, but also really confident and
Mhm.
comfortable, expressing when they liked something or didn't like something. And I had never met anybody or any other child around that age that had that level of confidence, but also was very compassionate. And so I asked my friend, what did you do? Like, how can I do this? And she said, you have to meet Mindy.
Ah,
um, so she recommended your classes, and there my journey began. And I mean, after one class, it changed my life. And I'm not exaggerating.
wow. So,
Um,
so how old were your children at that time? You had two children at that time?
I had two children. My oldest was 2.5,
Oh, okay.
and my youngest was not even one, was just turning one, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I had, like every parent, had challenges, and I started to notice that, like, the only thing that was effective was like being very strict, but not very nice. And
Hmm.
it felt like I got what I wanted out of it. Like I got them to get out of their crib or to
Hmm.
whatever it was, but
Yeah.
it was not, it didn't feel comfortable to me. Like it didn't feel like the way I should be talking to another human being, but I didn't have the language or knew how else to do parenting, I guess, because it's all I knew.
Right. So you observed a friend and her children and saw how they were older. They were older than your children. You saw how they were, and you wanted to be able to raise your children similar to how they were, if there was, that magic pill, right, so to speak. And she referred you to me, and you knew that you wanted to do something different because how you were disciplining them wasn't really resonating with you. It wasn't sitting with you. And you mentioned that after the first class, you felt like it was life changing. So from that point on, what would you say was one of your biggest takeaways, if you can even remember, at the beginning of your journey that you first kind of started to implement?
Um, One was probably connecting with them.
Hmm.
And I started to notice that, in the morning everything was kind of rushed. I'd wake up and shower quickly, get them. And so the day after my first class, I woke up an hour before them. I exercised, got breakfast ready, then got them from their crib. And by then I was just in a much better place. Like I moved my
Ah.
body.
You
You
took
know,
care of you. You took care
yeah,
of you
pretty
first.
much.
Oh, what a concept. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is such a powerful thing for others to learn, that, when we take care of our basic needs and take care of us first, we're able to be better with our children. So it sounds like you were able to be more present and slow down so that you could truly and consciously connect with your children, which then made a difference in their willingness and their
Yeah.
behavior. Is that, yeah.
They're
Awesome.
more willing to everything, more
Yeah.
willing to get in the car, more willing to eat their food, more willing to
Yes.
just
Just follow
everything.
our direction. I mean, it's so powerful. The when we truly make a decision to connect with our children, how that can really impact their behavior. And so the fact that that was like one of your biggest takeaways, I mean, it's one of the most important things. So good for you. And so now let's fast forward. So you came to some classes of mine. This is all before COVID, pre-COVID,
Yeah.
years ago, and this was in Miami. And then now you moved, and we're going to fast forward. Now, how many children do you have?
Three, just
And how,
three.
and how, just three, only three. And how old are your children now?
um 5, 3, almost 4, and the youngest is 20 months.
Okay. And so you just finished taking my parenting class that I do now online. Even though you don't live in Miami, you get to still
Yes.
take this course. And you were sharing with me before that, obviously none of us are happy with COVID, but that because of COVID, you were able to we've always stayed kind of connected, but able to connect in a way where you can come and learn at a time that works for you. Also, your children come to my virtual pre-K, which is so fun because they get to learn as well. So would you say that coming to the Connected Parent series that you just finished was helpful to you, even though you've already taken a bunch of classes with me and your children are a little bit older and you had a bunch of skills? Would you say it's been helpful to you?
Oh, extremely. Because I feel that I need to practice as much as possible, but also if I don't practice the skills the right way, it's not as effective. So I'm not going to wire my brain to parent the way that I want to parent.
Mm-hmm.
So taking the classes helps reinforce, because every class I've taken, I've tried to focus, like, you had a class where it was like, this week we were talking about positive intent. So I would focus on that for a week.
Mm-hmm.
But then after the classes are over, it was harder to find that focus.
Yeah.
And classes for me have been helpful to structure my life and think about, okay, this week I'm going to see the good in my children, or this week I'm going to practice this language, or
Mm-hmm. So it's
and
so it sounds like it's given you some structure to be able to say, okay, instead of saying, I'm just going to be a better parent, or I'm going to, really implement conscious discipline and everything Mindy's teaching me, which is just an unrealistic goal. It's, oh, I'm going to take the skill of positive intent from conscious discipline that Mindy is teaching. And that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm really going to focus on seeing the best in my children and seeing the best in situations, and then focusing on the language that comes with that. Is that a
yeah.
fair statement? Awesome. So if you could, choose one thing that you could share with anybody who's listening that has been the most helpful to you, what would be that one thing that you would want to share with others?
Um, that's extremely challenging because every week I was like, this is the thing,
Right.
like it's gonna change it,
Yeah,
like
I feel that too. I'm like, this is the most important thing. And then I'm like, I've said
yes,
that 100 times and they're all different because they're all important, right?
yes.
It's not just one thing. So that is a hard question, which makes sense. So I guess what's the thing that you feel like you've implemented and it's made a difference, which is, again, you probably say a lot of things, but
That's a
maybe
lot of things, but
you're
I
doing
think
now.
if I really, and I talked about this with my sister before, because I talk about this with everyone.
Anyone who will listen, me too.
Yes, exactly. And she said that she believes it's positive intent because she's noticed that it's something that I always bring up,
Hmm.
because I think the power of the positive intent has helped me to see the good always and have a lot more patience with everyone I interact with, not just my kids. And I noticed that I practiced this with my husband even before I knew about conscious discipline, because I rarely got mad at him for
Hmm.
anything, because I always thought, well, he's probably tired, he's probably hungry, or he's probably exhausted, he's probably overwhelmed.
Right,
All these things and I did that with him, but then I didn't do it with my kids or with anyone else.
right,
And I realized that when I took your class, like, why would I not do that with
right,
anyone else, when everyone else is going through their own
right. Well, we
everything?
don't know why, right? So having
Yeah,
positive
we don't know.
intent helps us create a story because we cannot accurately assess the intentions of others, even though we think we can. It's like, why not just create a positive story? And that sounds like that's what you were naturally doing with your husband, is saying, oh, maybe he's just tired. Maybe he just had a bad day, versus taking things personally or seeing the worst in him. You created a better story so that you could, a better story, a more positive story, so that you could be better in your interactions with him, right? So that you could have more patience. And then from that, when you learned in the classes for parenting, you're like, oh, I can do this with my children. So it was probably a little bit easier for you since you were already naturally doing it, where, most people, this can be hard, which
It
I
is
would
hard, I
say
think.
that the journey, it can be challenging, right? Because it's requiring us to change. versus trying to get the children to do something different, or the husband or wife or the teacher or whoever to do things differently. It's really about taking responsibility and saying, what can I do differently that could help this child, be more willing to behave or cooperate. So would you recommend the Connected Parent series to others?
Oh, 100%. Like I want to take it again because I think I could always practice, and my skills are evolving. The kids are changing,
Yes.
so I think it's always helpful in all relationships, not just with kids, but it's extremely helpful with kids. But
Yes. So you found
I
that
think
some of these skills were also helping you with all of your relationships, not just with your children.
yes.
And did you find that during the Connected Parent series, like you were able to, because I think at one time, or maybe that was during the Q&A, that you were cooking or you were making something, did you find that you were able to, it wasn't like something else you had to do at the end of the day, but that it was more just something you could sit back and listen and kind of have some me time and
Yeah, like I have friends that like don't even put the video on, like that taken in your class, and they'll put their headphones in and like just chill and like drink tea, and they'll watch you, but
yeah, people have told me
or
that.
they'll wash dishes. Like I
Yeah.
wash dishes while I'm doing it, but I'm reinforcing these skills, and you give us all the notes, so I don't feel like I have to be taking notes.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I mean, sometimes something is like, oh, I need to write that down, but I
Yeah.
mean, besides that, it's nice because I don't have to drive and get somewhere, and I would still be willing to do that if I could,
Right. Well, you're not going to drive from where you live to where we
Yeah,
live.
now I
It'll take you a couple days to get here. Well, that's awesome. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share a little bit about you, a little bit about your journey, and really how helpful the Connected Parent series could be, because I am offering a new one starting in January. And I'm hopeful more people will join me on this parenting journey so that really we can all help change the world a little bit, or at least have some more peace in our home and some more tools in our toolbox. So thanks so much, Edith, for your willingness to share and join me for our very first video testimonial. So exciting. We did it. Yay. Thank you so much. This was awesome. Thanks, Edith.
Thanks, Mindy.